what my talk is, it's what I wish I knew as a new Mac admin. My name is Catriona McDonald. So who am I as a professional? I've been in I've been at the college for 10 years in May, so I've been working with Macs for about 10 years. Currently, I am the custodian of printers, Apple and Android, which is quite an eclectic mix. And if one's, like usually, funnily enough, I find that while I'm working with one thing and it gets all settled, the other thing kind of pops off. And I'm also the founder of Scotland Mac Admin. So if you're kind of up in the north area or you want to kind of come over, give me a shout after. Non-professional, I'm a music enjoyer. I love kind of heavy metal, kind of EDM, just a wide range of music. I play a lot of games. I just love stories, so any games that have got a good deep story. So if you can tell that there's the red and the yellow and the blue, that's all kind of from the cyberpunk colors. I love Cyberpunk 2077. And I do have a chronic illness. I've got chronic renal failure. Thankfully, I've got a transplant, so that means that, like, for now, I can kind of just do my job and I just have to go to appointments every now and again. But it is kind of one of those things that I do tackle with a chronic illness while I'm working, which has its kind of challenges at times, but at most time I'm lucky that I don't have to deal with it too much. And I'm also kind of a foodie. I like to try new food places. And if you cannot tell, I'm an absolutely huge nerd. So we're going to start off. These are the categories of this talk. So this is me at the very beginning, totally fresh Mac admin. Just after, so kind of how my career started is I used to be a nurse, which is a totally different kind of career path. So I decided, you know what, it ended up with kind of me diagnosing a lot of network issues at home. It's like, right, okay, what's working? DNS is not working, that's why I can't go to this website. Cool. So I kind of thought, right, maybe I should do networking. So I spotted a course at the City of Glasgow College, decided to go for it. Did a 2-year course, got my HND, and did a kind of a summer placement at the college, and they were like, we've got a job kind of afterwards, do you want to go for it? And I decided to go there, and I've been there pretty much ever since. So this is kind of how it looked, kind of just starting off. Like, I knew a little bit of coding. I probably knew ls-l. Didn't really know much more beyond that. So I definitely needed to work a bit on that. My communication, better, because I did work as a nurse, so I had to explain kind of very complex medical terms and try and kind of bring them into a more easily to understand for people who might not have the same medical knowledge as I do. I knew absolutely no one that kind of looked after Macs, other than one other kind of manager who was kind of at the time kind of put away in a corner and no one really talked to him. Eventually, we kind of got talking, and he's now my manager, and we get on really, really well. But again, he's a massive Apple fanboy. But at the time, he was kind of just kept away due to kind of politics and all that fun stuff. And because I did a networking course, I did actually know a little bit of troubleshooting. I knew a little bit of the kind of technical stuff. And because I've done a degree, and I think I did know enough of kind of about research to get me by. I think these are the kind of, for me, I find that these are the kind of key skills of kind of being a Mac admin, or being an admin in general, and when you're working for kind of different systems. So this is me starting off. Just felt like I was drowning. I had some knowledge, had to kind of start from scratch. Didn't really have anyone I had maybe one person I could ask, but they were kind of not very kind of well versed on it. So yeah, it was always a fun kind of challenge of what am I going to deal with today. So let's start off with coding. As I said, I am a nerd, so you will find kind of little kind of tidbits of the kind of terminal codes. So what is coding? It's kind of automating tasks. It's probably the bread and butter for some of us, but because there is kind of a lot of applications are now doing really good GUIs, we don't need to go in the back end, but it's really good for automating tasks. There's certain things that you don't want to do multiple times, like you don't want to put a license key in like a machine for the 34th time. or for naming devices. So that means if you can name them, if you've got kind of smart query groups, it can kind of, all right, you're part of this group, you need these applications. It can be kind of simple, single line, basic, or it can be massive and has a lot of modules. Like, for example, there's some tools that I've kind of explained later, but you can have a look at them on GitHub, and they are lines long. It's impressive, absolutely impressive. So tips for any coding language, doesn't matter what you're doing. This is very much bread and butter. Comment who made it, when, and its purpose. Indent conditionals, loops, and any kind of segment between, like kind of contained within a command. Declare your variables at the top, and comment and space out your sections. Comment is probably the most important part, because it means that when you come back to it, if you look at sections, like, what was I doing there? Or someone else could kind of go in and saying, what were you doing there? How does that work? Like, it's kind of one of those things where you see on the internet, it's like, don't mess around with this code. We don't know how it works. It just does. And then it like counter of how many hours you've tried to fix this. And you can see it's like 26 hours or something. So sometimes you do have kind of interesting code that you're like, okay, I don't know exactly how it works, but it just does. So the bread and butter of any Mac admin is like your Zish, Bash, and Shell. They can do anything, kind of interact with the terminal. They have kind of very useful kind of features, and pretty much quite a lot of your scripts for like setting kind of network stuff, setting names, will be done in a kind of this kind of language. Then you've got your Apple script, which is a bit more niche, but it does kind of interact with applications. So, for example, you can technically do that in Shell, but sometimes it's a lot like it, because of the way AppleScript is, it does it in kind of more of a plain English. So like you're telling an application to activate. That's done in kind of English. So for someone who's starting off that kind of doesn't really understand like programming languages, it's probably a really good one to start off with. That and basic PowerShell ones. I know PowerShell's more Windows, but PowerShell is also kind of written in a way that is kind of easy to understand. And then you've got JavaScript for the more technical, and JavaScript's kind of more kind of internet, kind of web page API based, but there is like a JavaScript kind of section in the script editor on macOS. And then finally, Swift. So Swift is obviously kind of more kind of complex languages. It is really good for API calls, and you can kind of make more kind of command line tools through Swift. Or you can also use it to display fancy dialogues to say, like Swift dialogue is like, hey, your computer's out of date, can you please update it? Which is what I use it for quite a lot of the time. So here's some tools that you can find. You've got Swift dialogue, erase install, which some people, and especially my colleagues, when they say it's like, oh, I'll just use the erase install script. They're like, wait, no, that's going to erase it. It's like, no. There's another section that just does the install on top of it. And then Superman and Installator. So would you like to know more? If anyone gets the reference, I'll buy your beer later. So we got some kind of good blogs out there. There's like plenty of blogs about scripting, but the best ones I would say is probably Scripting OS X by Armin, and he's also done some books as well. You've got Der Flounder, so Rich was talking earlier about the kind of Apple beta. He's a good one. And then you've got also kind of vendor stuff, like Jamf have got a great scripting course right now, and Eru have like a wee blog page to access that kind of starts with the basics. And then, yeah. So let's move on to communication. Also, very classic. What I love is tell.blinkandnets.nl. I used to show this. Someone knows it. So I used to show this. I learned this while I was actually working in the Apple store. And what I love about it is just it shows Star Wars through the terminal. I don't think you can do it anymore, but it was a cool thing at the time. The communication, I would say, is probably one of the most important soft skills, but it is probably one of the most hardest to handle, because as I'm guessing I'm not the only one, but I'm kind of an introvert. I don't like conflict when it comes to me. When it comes to my colleagues, I will absolutely fight their back. When it comes to myself, it's like, okay, it's fine. I'm not really bothering with it. But communication, like the poor communication, can cause frustration, and I do feel a lot of frustration when things are not kind of passed on to me appropriately, or kind of done in a way that kind of makes me understand what you actually want of me. But if it's done right, it can create an absolutely wonderful culture. Like for the best, I would say probably Mac admins community, great communicators. It's like, well, I'm trying to solve this problem. And then it kind of, someone will then break it down. It's like, right, can you break it down for me? What's actually happening? It's a really wonderful community because everyone's kind of communicates really, really well. So I'm going to go for a scenario right now. So we've got 3 people. We've got Ian, Nigel, and Francesca. So here's the example. I am just going to read this off. So an update for a business critical application has gone live. It has been tested by Francesca, but bugs have been found. It doesn't play well with one of the plugins. The update causes the application to crash on launch, which makes it unusable with the plugin. The plugin is used by some of the staff in finance. She has been looking all day for any workarounds for Ian to package with the app and got carried away and did not update the project ticket. This was not communicated to Ian. The one who packaged and distributed the application, Nigel, Ian's manager, has told Ian it needed to be released by end of day, as they want to look good in regards to security compliance. So Ian thought it was perfectly fine since there was nothing to say that it was contrary to the contrary on the project area of the ticket system, and decided to push it out anyway without warning to the end users or help desk. Next day, a fair bunch of help desk tickets have been coming in with rather distressed end users. So it's all panic stations. Actually, hands up if there's anyone kind of experienced a kind of a similar example like this. Yeah, there's a few. It happens, unfortunately. The blame game. So making a mistake is only human. In this scenario, all employees were at fault one way or another through the lack of communication. In this kind of scenario, blaming isn't really going to help anything. It's not going to help the end user. It just makes you feel good for a short amount of time and you don't learn anything from it. So when you're kind of dealing with a problem, don't look for who caused the problem. Look for how you can solve the problem, learn from that, and then as a team, kind of grow and progress from it. So when you want to communicate, you want to be clear and concise. You want to get your point across. Basically, don't beat around the bush. Address any concerns that may arise. So obviously, if you're asking questions, some end users just like, oh, you've done an update before and it kind of crashed this program. You can then kind of allay their concerns and say, well, actually, we tested it. If you want to test it out, we can kind of roll it back, or we can give you a test device. So to make sure that you're not going to disrupt any of your workflow, because at the end of the day, these devices are a lifeline to some people, and it's not fair for us to do something all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden their device is out of commission and they've got an important kind of presentation due that day or project or spreadsheet that they need to kind of update. Also, be transparent. If you feel like you're hiding something, that breeds a lot of mistrust. So if you're just saying, yeah, these things kind of happen. I don't really know what's going on. When you know what's going on, if they find out later, it kind of goes through the grapevine, and your department is not going to look all that great. Be empathetic and understanding. Empathy is also a soft skill. Try and put yourself in the other's shoes. It's like it can be frustrating sometimes to deal with certain kind of customers and users. But at the end of the day, like this, if you try and put themselves in their shoes, it's just the way that they're trying to work, and that's how they work, and that's what they're used to. It doesn't really help for you to get frustrated at them. It's best to find out, right, okay, let's have a look and try and get to a solution together. And also, mistakes happen. It's impossible. I have made many a mistake in my career. In fact, I did a talk about this 2 years ago. So if you want to see kind of a step-by-step of what happened, how that, we'll go look it up on YouTube. Workplace culture is also an important factor. When it comes to the blame game, if that is actually very apparent in your work career, people are not going to kind of step up and say, actually, that was me, and get ostracized for it. It's not good. It's a good learning experience. Mistakes are great learning experiences if you learn from them, rather than kind of try and cover it up. And also, how we treat failure kind of shows how we are as a company and as a person. So, Documentation, documentation is an absolute lifesaver. If you look at like Apple has an amazing documentation. Also, some of the vendors have great documentation. So it means that if you've got a problem, you can look up and say, right, okay, this is not going quite right. What's going on here? It's like, well, actually, you need to put on this setting, and that should be sorted. So you yourself should be doing something so that if, say for example, you're doing a talk and then all of a sudden print queue randomly disappears, which actually happened a couple of days ago for me. Other people can kind of step in and do that part for you without having you getting your messages, like your phone blown up saying, I can't do this, what's going on, can't do. And also it's try and keep it all in the one place, have a one source of truth. If you have places that branch off, like a wiki and in your ticketing system, or someone has a Teams channel that has all the documentation, like it gets kind of tiring to try and find what documentation and where you kind of need it from. So try and kind of sing from the same hymn sheet. So this is more about the human element. You guys as Mac admins are a great community. You have a bunch of knowledge and you're always happy to share that kind of knowledge. For me, when I found out that there's this great community, it was a lifesaver because I started initially completely isolated, and I had to do a lot of research, and I love research, that was fine. But when things went wrong, I was like, oh gosh, who do I really ask? And when I became the subject matter expert, it was a bit daunting because then I didn't really know who else to ask. And then when I finally found out about the Mac Admin Slack and joined it, it meant it opened up a lot more doors, a lot less frustration. It means that, like, for example, we've had this black screen issue. Funnily enough, the black screen issue has been experienced by a few people, and they said, delete this file. We deleted the file, and that's actually fixed the problem. So it means that we didn't have to re-image Macs. So the community can help you with all kind of sorts of problems, and they're so friendly. You've also got kind of groups. So again, self-plugin. You've got Scott Mac Admins, London Mac Admins, Benelux, East Midlands Mac Admins India, and it's growing. So Jamf in itself has a great section talking about all the Jamf groups that they have. But that doesn't mean that just because you don't use Jamf, you can't go to these events. They're very kind of device agnostic, or should I say, like device management services agnostic. So you can kind of go. So even if you're using Entra, or even if you're using Omnitia or Adigi or anything, you can go to any of these events, and they're very kind of welcoming. You'll get talks. The whole point of these groups is just to kind of share knowledge. It's not to share knowledge of that specific kind of device management, although you can sometimes you can talk about those kind of things. You've also got kind of bigger events and bigger places. So the Mac Admin Slack, which I've already mentioned. You've got Jamf Nation Live, Macaduck, of course, which we're here at, and then the new one, Mac Admins Europe, which is happening next week. So you've got these kind of big events. What I love about Macaduck is it's kind of more like kind of laid back. It's MDM agnostic. Sorry, keep saying MDM. Device management service agnostic. And it's just kind of a great way to meet kind of different people. It's always great to kind of grab a drink. It's like, oh, how's things with you? I know small talk's not the easiest. It's like, but everyone wants to talk about the weather. Start off with that, and then kind of move from there and say, actually, I've been having this problem. What do you think about this? Or what do you think about the fact that Tim Cook is going to be no longer CEO after the fall? So this kind of just says what I kind of said. Just talk to your peers at events, pop onto Slack, and if there's no groups, make one. The vendors will be always happy to join you. I know that to kind of help you set up groups, if you want more of a city kind of oriented group, make one up. I went for Scotland because Scotland has absolutely none, but obviously London has its own group, and there's an area of East Midlands has their own group. But I decided, since Scotland doesn't have one, I wanted to set one up because I notice when I go to a lot of these events, not a lot of Scottish people come down. So it's good and also we're kind of more like looking at budgets. It's like, well, can I really afford to go down to London, or can I just stay up in Scotland? So that's kind of one of the main reasons why I kind of started the group myself. So the next one is troubleshooting. I think that is probably the number one question everyone has asked in their kind of career. Have you tried turning it on and off again? So troubleshooting is a natural part of the job. Even the smallest thing, you try and do something, it goes wrong, you're troubleshooting. I think why we kind of gravitate towards these careers is because it's a puzzle, and we love a good puzzle. I love a good puzzle. I love a good kind of problem that kind of gets my brain engaged, get me kind of searching all over places. And while I'm, yes, stressed at the time, I do kind of weirdly love it. So example of kind of troubleshooting moments is like a policy, a profile that you've deployed that isn't working, a script. Scripts can go wrong. I've seen a few scripts go wrong. Applications not deploying, or kind of complex user issues. Sometimes it's not necessarily what you're doing is doing wrong. Sometimes it could be kind of other kind of contributing factors like network, servers, anything. But at the end of the day, you need to figure out that it is part of that department. So it's like, actually, it's your remit because I've proved it through this. So troubleshooting involves kind of asking a lot of questions like, is this affecting one user or is this affecting multiple users? Because that kind of starts get your brain is like, well, if it's only affecting one computer, it could be the device. If it's affecting multiple users, that sounds like it might be a network problem. It kind of gets the brain kind of like narrowing down where the problem is. If you break down the issue, and try and find which kind of parts of the process is broken. So if anyone's done the OSI model, it's obviously got those kind of different layers. It's great for troubleshooting, so you can find out which kind of part of the layer is kind of not going wrong. So it means that when network says it's not network, you can say, oh, well, actually, yeah, it is. Or, oh, right, my bad, yeah, I can actually see from the logs it's an application problem. So you can also find kind of any changes have been made. We have a CAB. They're very fun kind of meetings, but they're very useful meetings because if something goes wrong, usually we're going, oh, right, what changes have been made recently? When changes have been made, some people don't foresee all the kind of problems that may arise from these changes. And some interesting things can happen. So it's not that they thought about this and didn't. Sometimes they thought, hey, it'll be fine, I didn't, and then something else kind of breaks. So it uses a lot of deductive reasoning. You're basically like Sherlock when you're going into troubleshooting, kind of finding out what the reason's, looking at kind of logs and finding that kind of minute issue that might point out to exactly what the problem is. Or if you can look at logs and send it to hopefully your own area, because AI is now kind of good at looking at kind of logs and saying, well, have you looked at this kind of area? Looks like you kind of need to focus on that. So it's good to try and replicate the problem. Try and kind of do it for yourself so you can understand more of the problem yourself. It's not always easy, especially when it comes to intermittent issues. Those are the ones that kind of sneak away. As soon as you go see it, it's absolutely fine, and then you leave, and then the user kind of says, actually, it's doing it again. They're the ones that kind of hide from you. But then for those ones that do hide from you, you can still look up the logs. They'll appear there. And you can research kind of local knowledge-based articles. So if you've been kind of updating your knowledge-based articles about problems that you found yourself, say, for example, the black screen issue that we had recently, we now have a knowledge-based article that kind of details exactly step-by-step how to do it. One of my colleagues wrote it up, and he's done a really good job of it. So now his other colleagues can have a look at it and say, okay, I know what I'm doing with that problem now. And you can also look at previous tickets. So that's also good to see if there's a kind of a bigger problem. So if a lot of tickets come in at the same time, something clearly is not working with for that application. Maybe it's an update bug, or a feature. I think I've already mentioned this, but if you're truly stuck and your colleagues can't help, you can always kind of post a forum post on Jamf Nations. Everyone's kind of happy to help there, or ask on the AC admin Slack. Once you get to the solution, document it. If there's no knowledge-based articles, if it's quick and easy, have it customer-facing. So if it's something that they can do in 2 clicks, put it to them. If it's something that's more complicated and you have to kind of explain some stuff, give it to the help desk or any kind of first-line facing. And if it was actually a change that happened, inform whoever made the change. It's not malicious, it's just to kind of let them know so that they know for themselves to kind of learn from it. It's like, right, okay, that caused that, what did I do that didn't quite go right? It's like, it doesn't need to be conflict, it's just saying, this kind of went wrong. Do you know what could have happened with that? Or, if they do know, they can go, oh, actually it's this, or if they don't know, they can look up and tell you afterwards so that you both know. Sometimes you need to kind of bring in a vendor or someone more senior. If you do that, the important steps is kind of document the steps you've already taken so that people don't go repeat what you've done. So it's kind of quite annoying when you're facing a problem. It's like, had to look at it, didn't see the problem. Like, poor responses to tickets is quite frustrating. If you document all the steps you've done, it means we don't have to retread ground that's already been taken. What you've ruled out so far, so it means that they know which kind of areas to kind of avoid. Attach logs, explain the symptoms, screenshots as well are really useful, so like any error codes, any kind of stuff, and also how many kind of people have been affected by the issue, and yeah, I've sent the screenshots. So moving on to kind of technical. Now, who knows everything about everything? I don't think anyone does. There's a lot of things on there, and Apple is great. They've got amazing products, and they've got so much pushed into their devices, and the way that it all works in the background is fascinating, but you're not going to know you're not going to be an expert on everything. But there's certain, what was I going to go with this? It's more that I want to put across that you've got, some people will have special interests in certain areas of looking after Macs. So some people might be really good with scripting, some people might be really good with declarative device management and understand it to the point where they can actually input the codes themselves and get it to do stuff. When you've got a problem, you're not expected to know everyone, but you can everything. But there's other people that you can ask. There's always someone that kind of has more knowledge than you, or if you've got the most knowledge, that's fantastic, you win a prize. So working with computers in general it is very technical. So it's like, even for us, we're working mostly with the operating system, but there is not just that. There's the networking, there's the hardware itself, the packaging, scripting. So there's a lot to do with that, and it's not always kind of, you're not going to learn everything in the first year. But if you'd like to know more, you can go, Apple have got a great guides. They've also got their kind of training, training.apple.com. Jamf as well has got trainingcatalog.jamf.com. And if you want to know from other vendors, go ask them. We use Jamf in our kind of environment, so I know most about them. But obviously, like, I know Eru has a really good blog. So best to ask your vendors where you can get this information, and they can point you into the right place. Also, like Microsoft, Intune, they've also got really good documentation and also courses through, I think theirs is training.microsoft.com. You've also got amazing blogs. So these are the ones that I tend to gravitate the most to. Eclectic Light, Scripting OS X, their founder, Rich himself, and many, many more, like Traveling Tech Guy, which was very useful for my talk last year. For networking, because it's good to understand how stuff gets to the device. So unfortunately, it's something that we can't exactly avoid. So I put up some kind of useful for commands. NSLOOKUP for DNS queries. It's always DNS. Ping and traceroute. So ping's really good, but if your network guys are kind of like very secure conscious, they might have actually kind of shut down that port so it doesn't reply back to ICMP. If that's the case, just talk to your network guy and say, is it awake? Or your server guys and saying, is this server up and talking? Traceroute, just to see where the packets are being dropped. So if it's kind of being dropped before it gets out, it's obviously more of a local issue. If it's getting dropped, it could be that AWS has decided to have a hissy fit, or any of the other kind of bigger areas. So now we're kind of moving on to research. So with this job, you need to do a lot of research. It can broaden your knowledge. It's a very kind of useful, find useful tools, and it rewards the curious. For me, whenever I hear something, whenever I'm on a meeting, and I'm like, ooh, that sounds interesting, usually within 5 seconds, I'm already kind of in Google's like, what does this do? How does this work? It's a great skill. It means that you can kind of, even if you don't learn it and retain the knowledge, you know roughly where to go for the next time. It's also kind of a complementary skill because it can boost your other skills, like for example, your technical skills, your coding skills, kind of more your harder skills rather than your soft skills. So the next time I'm going to talk about kind of search engine kind of maximize, because this can help you a lot if you know how to use the search engine. So rather than having a lot of results that you don't know what to do with, you can kind of narrow your search. So for example, if you want in Google, if you want a certain file type, you can just do file type PDF. You can minimize results to a certain domain. So if you just want academic sites, you can put a wildcard at the beginning, .ac.uk. Or if you want exact matches, although exact matches half the time I find kind of argues against me. And you can also use kind of tools to kind of narrow it. You don't always want something that's kind of done since the beginning of the internet. You sometimes want something that's been kind of talked about in the last year, and you can use that in the wee kind of tool area. So the great tools for research is the search function. Digging out which can help you kind of dig out random forum threads that kind of, I'm dealing with this problem, okay, this is how they deal with it. Let's experiment this on a test environment and see if it works, or even hitting the books. There's some really kind of good kind of technical books that are still out there. Pact Publishing do kind of good books, and you've got Armin that's released a few books, and there's kind of a few Mac admins that have released books in their time. So kind of after 10 years, this is where I feel I'm at. The coding, I'm at 6. I can do it. I'm very good with the shell script, but I am not at the point where I can do API calls yet, but I'm really curious about it. My communication, it's an 8, not quite a 10, but that's because just how I am as a person, but I do work on it quite a lot. Network, it's growing, so probably next year it'll be a 7, and then bigger and bigger, but as it kind of grows as I've been going to more of these events. My troubleshooting, 10, I would say, because I love problem solving. I dig right in whenever someone's like, this is not going quite right. I'm usually quite in and trying to find the issue. Technical, I don't know absolutely everything about everything, but I do have a good foundational knowledge of everything, and because of the research that I do. No, that's not the one I want. Of course, I forgot I did transitions to text. And thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kat. We do have a couple of questions in the app, unless there's some...
There is a question on the app. So, there's a few now. So what would you recommend to someone entirely new as starting as a Mac admin? Training.apple.com has got a great kind of device support course. They've got a couple of courses up there, so they're kind of great. They're also device management service agnostic. If your vendors like Jamf have the Jamf 100, Jamf 200, Jamf 100 is amazing, and it does kind of explain how configuration profiles work. They've got some good in their kind of training catalog area. But if you are not with Jamf, Intune, Microsoft also has great training kind of for their kind of their device solutions. And they also have amazing documentation, so it's good to kind of have a read. Can be a bit dry, I'll be honest, but it's good stuff to know. So those are where I go, or just ask your vendors. They're obviously here today, or just give them an email and say, look, I'm wondering how to kind of learn more about using your software. Can you give me some kind of pointers or tell me where to go? And the other question, as a Mac admin, how do you manage the daily challenges to justify further investment of Apple hardware given the financial challenges we all face? That's a good question. That is a really good question. As a college, it's extremely hard, but we do have an area that's creative industries. So, for example, I know for a fact that a Mac will last 7 years. So, and whereas like we do have hardware that's Windows that's also been about 7 years. So we want stuff that's going to last as long as possible, especially when we go into financial hardship. But at the end of the day, when you're looking at kind of say, for example, Microsoft, there's a heck of a lot of add-ons. So I know that we're spending more on our Microsoft licenses in general, and this is not to kind of dunk on Microsoft, this is just to kind of give you the scale. We're spending more on that than we're actually spending on hardware replacement this year. So it's been a really hard, but I think it's more just kind of look at the business case, kind of say if it's something that you're used to, or if it's something that the area that you're looking to is more used to, ask them to make a business case. Why? Like, because that at the end of the day, if they have to move operating system, and they're going to have to learn up, and that's also hours of training that they're having to go through, and hours of kind of getting to know the system that they're going to go through. That's going to cost the business money. Also, like when you do get a Mac, it's robust. It lasts years. There's stuff that comes with it. So I do kind of, when I'm doing that, I know that I'm going to get 7 years exactly with a Mac. And that and if you get, we tend to go for the mid-range, so because we obviously and we do kind of go look at critical devices because we want to get the most out of them. That is a good question. Whoever asked that, if you want to go for a conversation, happy to have a conversation, just kind of out lunch, just grab me. Any more in the app?
There was just 2 in the app.
2, okay.
Who else? Oh, Rich. I'm coming. I know, right?
Oh, really? Right at the back.
He's in a
Gives the
different room.
exercise. Oh no, it's Rich.
It's not actually a question. It's a follow-on to the question that was just asked about, financial investment.
Yeah.
I hit on this point during my talk, but if you're just looking for dedicated test gear, like this is not going to be your daily driver, you can actually go for less powerful systems, which translates into less expensive systems. Because in that case, you want to make sure your stuff is running well on what is probably going to be the least powerful stuff in your fleet. So, like I was talking about the MacBook Neo during my talk. If your stuff runs great on that, it's going to run great on absolutely everything else, probably in your fleet.
Yeah, that's what we're going to use our MacBook Neo for, I'll be honest. Using and abusing it. Anyone else? I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
Thank you so much, Kat.
If you've got any questions, just grab me. I'm always happy to talk. Thank you very much.